What's good, everyone? In today's video, I'll be showing you how to master Pathfinder in Season 10. It's definitely been a few seasons since I did a Pathfinder guide, so I wanted to update y'all with some tips and tricks that I didn't cover in the last one. Now, if you watch this video to the end, I guarantee you will be able to absolutely dominate with Pathfinder this season. One thing you should know is Pathfinder is a true skill gap legend, and I'll get more into that throughout the video. If anyone is new here, my channel centers around helping you guys improve at Apex Legends, so if you enjoy this video, please be sure to subscribe for more Apex content. Alright, so let's get right into Pathfinder's passive. I'm going to cover this fairly quickly, but it's important to note that it's pretty weak at the moment, and I'm sure most Pathfinder mains will agree with me saying that. So right now, Pathfinder can scan survey beacons just like all of the other recon legends these days. And now obviously when you scan a survey beacon, it will give you the next ring location. But for Pathfinder, if your zipline isn't available, scanning a survey beacon will make your zipline immediately available after. So I always recommend using your zipline before you scan the beacon. That way you have two available if needed. Now, there were some rumors in the past regarding a buff to Pathfinder's passive, basically changing it overall, something along the lines of Pathfinder being able to zoom in with a lens and see things from further away. But that idea is well over a few months old now, and we haven't heard anything since then. However, it would be really nice for Pathfinder to get a little bit of a buff when it comes to his passive, because right now, if you stack him up against all the other recon legends, it doesn't really make sense for him, and it feels pretty outdated. If you guys are enjoying this video, please be sure to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It helps my video out tremendously and will only take a second of your time, so thank you for doing that. Before I get to showing you how to master Pathfinder's grapple, I gotta be straight up with you regarding one of his biggest weaknesses: Pathfinder's hitbox. It's still messed up from when they made it bigger in Season 7, I believe. And this has always been an issue for him because they kept messing with it over the seasons, and it still feels like it's too big. You can get absolutely deleted while playing as Pathfinder. Now, it's not as bad as it once was because they removed his low profile, but it's still my biggest problem with Pathfinder. I truly think Pathfinder is the funnest legend to play in Apex, especially once you learn how to master his grapple. But the reality is a lot of fights in Apex are really close range, and him having a huge hitbox really hurts his chances of winning a lot of fights, mostly because of how quickly he can just get knocked. I wish they would decrease the size of his hitbox, but they probably won't. So now that I've got that out of the way, let's talk about how to master his grapple, which is his tactical. Now, this ability is where the true skill gap comes in. And for anyone who doesn't know what I mean by skill gap in this context, here's the simplest way to explain it. Let's look at Octane, for example. His tactical is his stim, and when he stims, it's literally the same for every person who uses his tactical. Sure, you could time it better than the other person, but overall, his tactical is going to do the same thing for a person who's brand new to the game, and it's going to do the same thing for the person who's got 4,000 hours in this game. Now, with Pathfinder, his grapple is much different. A newer player isn't going to be able to hit the same crazy grapple as a person who has an extensive amount of time on Pathfinder is. But don't worry, I'll show you exactly how to be an experienced Pathfinder overnight. So when you go for grapples, the little yellow circle that indicates where you're pointing your grapple to will turn blue. And when it turns blue, that means you're able to connect to whatever object you're trying to hit. I recommend hitting the jump button once the grapple connects to whatever object you're grappling to. This will give you more vertical lift and will also help you create more distance. As you can see here, this is what the grapple is going to look like when I don't press jump. The grapple is basically useless. But here's what it looks like when I press jump. Now I'm able to create much more space and verticality, and I'm able to control my direction of which way I want to land much better. Now, timing hitting the jump button once the grapple connects will be a little tricky for you newer players, but once you practice it a few times here and there, it should become fluid and it will just be muscle memory at that point, and that will make grappling so much easier. Along with pressing the jump button, you should use your mouse or your joysticks, whichever input you're on, to direct which ways you want to help propel you in that right direction. So learning the direction you're trying to head to while grappling will take some time, but you guide it completely with your momentum and your directional inputs. So if you want to go to the right, make sure you're turning to the right and swinging like a half circle from right to left, and same way from left to right if you're trying to go to the left. Now, if you turn too sharp, you will basically snap the grapple. That will make your grapple disconnect. So it's got to be a gradual, fluid motion. Can't do it too sharp one way or another, or it will be completely ineffective. If you're trying to create a lot of space with a large grapple, for instance, you're trying to grapple away from a full team or something, consider what terrain you're grappling into. Is it something downhill, or is it something slanted you can slide down after you hit your grapple? This will help you create even more space. If your momentum can take you even further, you're able to create more space and more separation from your opponent. If you're going for vertical grapples, like you're trying to get on top of a building or a roof, you can either try to grapple at it straight on, where your grapple connects at the very edge of the roof, or you can go from right under it and create a half circle method. Both ways will get you to the top, but they will just fling you differently, and it's all about your momentum and how you want to land, because is there a full team on there, or are you just trying to take that height? Each situation is different, and depending on the variables, you'll be able to decide through time and experience of which way you're trying to hit a specific grapple. And the more you do it, guys, the more comfortable you will be doing it. Now, the only time I don't hit jump when the grapple connects is if I'm going for a sweeping grapple, as I like to call it. It's basically when you're swinging from the top of something as opposed to the bottom. Sweeping grapples can be helpful if it's one of the only ways to take that specific angle you're looking for, or if it's what needs to be done in that moment, like you're being chased and the only thing to grapple is the side of a building or something. If you learn these grapples, you can style on your opponents and quickly fool them. I should make a quick point about Pathfinder and other mobility legends in general. Just keep in mind, if you hit a nice grapple into a team, you want to think about your timing of it for sure. If you get too far ahead of your teammates, you could find yourself in a 1v3 situation with no escape. Your teammates probably won't have the abilities to get to where you got in the time that you got there. So if you're grappling into a team, I always recommend doing so once you or your teammates have gotten somebody weak. It's a foolish move to just grapple into a fully healthy team, just the same way it's dumb when your Octane teammate takes his jump pad into a fully healthy team. Good Pathfinders know this though, and they will always be very deliberate with their grapples. So just keep this in mind at all times when you're heading into a fight. Now let's move on to Pathfinder's Zipline. This ultimate is decent, but over the seasons with newer mobility legends added or buffed, it's sort of become obsolete. For one thing, Octane's pad is usually better and more effective than Pathfinder's Zipline, but just know, never put your Zipline in the enemy's line of sight. It's a free beam for them, and there's really not much you can do to not get hit. Yes, you can jump on it and off of it up to 3 times, but that's not a lot, especially if it's a long zip and the enemies have a favorable angle on you or your teammates. For this reason, I always recommend trying to use vertical zip lines when you're zipping onto a team. It will be less exposed, and they won't be super aware of where you and your teammates are coming from. Just be smart with it, that's all. It's a fine ultimate for you and your whole team to take some high ground, and as you guys know, in Apex, high ground is king. I will show you one zipline trick that is for more experienced players, but it is fairly easy to learn. It's called the Zipline Super Jump. You probably have seen this before by your favorite streamer or in other YouTube videos, but the way you do it is you interact with the zipline and then just spam jump twice. So if you're on controller, for me, it's X and then A twice. And this will lift you higher in the air and make your movement way less predictable from your opponent's POV. You can only super jump on the first interaction with the zipline though. So if you're doing it with a Pathfinder zipline or a map-made horizontal zipline, it's usually going to be done at the start or the beginning of the zipline. Now obviously, if Pathfinder shot a zipline and it's all the way on ground level, you can super jump in the middle of it, but once again, it has to be the first interaction with it. If you learn to master this, I guarantee you will outplay a lot of your opponents. It's not going to come in handy every single fight, but it is something you guys should practice and get familiar with. You can also do the zipline super jump on the ziplines that are in the buildings on Kings Canyon, World's Edge, or Olympus. If you guys made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. That's going to be it for me. I'll catch you on the next upload. Peace.